Have you ever wondered, what does love really mean? How to build a relationship that is not only lasting but also happy? Have you ever felt like things were going great with a guy until suddenly he started pulling away? You replay every message, wondering what changed. The truth is, attraction can fade not because of who you are, but how you're showing up through text. In the early stages, one small mistake can quietly shift the entire dynamic. In this video, we're diving into 7 common texting mistakes that silently turn men off, so you can stop second-guessing and start texting with confidence and clarity. Welcome to Sophia's Knowledge channel, and my name is Sophia. This is where lessons about love will help you better understand this complex emotion. In today's video, we will learn about 7 texting mistakes that make men lose interest in you. Be prepared, because the secrets and insights you are about to discover may make you rethink yourself and the relationships around you. Before we begin, find a quiet space, put on your headphones and relax. Let your mind completely immerse in these shares and enjoy every wonderful moment. Are you ready to discover new things about love? Let's start with Sophia right now. Mistake number 1. Texting too often, not giving him space. In the early stages of any romantic connection, it's completely normal to feel excited. The butterflies in your stomach, the constant urge to check your phone, the anticipation of his reply, it's all part of the magic of new attraction. But here's where many women unintentionally take a wrong turn: they begin texting too often. You might think, what's wrong with showing interest? Isn't communication the foundation of a healthy relationship? Absolutely, communication is essential. But overcommunication, especially through texting, can have the opposite effect. It can overwhelm, push him away, and make him feel like he's losing his sense of autonomy. Let's talk about why texting too frequently can be a turn-off, and more importantly, how to strike the right balance. The psychology of space and desire. Here's something powerful to remember: desire needs space to grow. When you're constantly available, always initiating conversation, and replying within seconds, it can remove the sense of mystery. And mystery, or the unknown, is where curiosity lives. It's what fuels the desire to learn more about you, to pursue you, and to win you over. When someone doesn't have time to miss you, to wonder what you're doing, or to process how they feel about you, they can begin to take your presence for granted. It's not that they're ungrateful or uninterested, it's just human nature. We value what we earn, and what we have to reach for. If something comes too easily or is always within reach, it loses a bit of its sparkle. How texting too much can backfire. Let's say you wake up, and the first thing you do is text him, "Good morning," smiley face. Then throughout the day, you share what you had for breakfast, what your coworker said in a meeting, the random thought you had on your lunch break, and a funny meme you saw on Instagram. On one hand, you're being open and warm, that's a good thing. But if he hasn't matched your energy, or if he hasn't responded yet, you might be unintentionally overwhelming him. Some men interpret this kind of frequent texting as pressure to reply quickly, pressure to stay engaged, or pressure to move the relationship forward faster than they're ready for. And instead of responding positively, they withdraw. You may notice him taking longer to respond. His messages become shorter. He stops initiating conversations. It feels like he's pulling away. And naturally, this might lead you to text even more in hopes of reconnecting, but in reality, it just makes the problem worse. Healthy communication versus constant contact. It's important to distinguish between healthy communication and constant digital connection. Healthy communication means texting with intention, sharing, listening, and checking in without losing your own rhythm or daily life. It doesn't mean you need to constantly update him on everything you're doing. When you scale back your texting just a little, you create room for both of you to breathe. He gets the chance to miss you, to think about you on his own, and to decide to reach out. And when he does, the connection feels genuine, not forced. That kind of engagement builds deeper interest over time. What you can do instead. So what can you do if you find yourself texting him all day, every day? Pause before you hit send. Ask yourself, does this message add value to the conversation? If it's something you can save for later or say in person, maybe give it a little space. Match his energy. If he texts once or twice a day, and you're sending 6 or 7 messages, try pulling back. Meet him where he's at, not where you wish he was. Focus on your life. Fill your time with things that make you feel confident and fulfilled: friends, hobbies, work, self-care. The more vibrant your life is, the less tempted you'll be to seek constant validation from your phone. Let silence work in your favor. Silence is not your enemy, it can be powerful. Sometimes not replying immediately can make your messages feel more meaningful when you do respond. Final thoughts. Texting is a wonderful way to connect, but too much of it too soon can do more harm than good. Relationships need space to breathe. They need moments of pause, moments of curiosity, and moments where each person gets to choose the other again and again, not because they feel obligated, but because they genuinely want to. So the next time you're tempted to send that 5th message in a row, take a moment. Breathe. Trust that if the connection is real, it doesn't need to be forced. Sometimes, the most attractive thing you can do is to give him just enough space to come looking for you. If you found this video helpful, please share it with your friends or family to spread the value. And if you have any questions or ideas, leave them in the comments. I'm always listening and ready to answer. Let's continue together. Mistake number 2. Always being the one to start the conversation. We live in a world where independence is celebrated, especially for women. Taking initiative, being direct, and showing interest are powerful traits, and they should never be undervalued. But in the realm of romantic connection, energy balance matters. And if you find yourself always being the one to initiate the conversation, it could be sending the wrong message. Let's be honest, when we like someone, we want to talk to them. We look for reasons to connect, we wonder how their day is going, and we're eager to keep the conversation flowing. But if you are always the one to reach out first, day after day, week after week, it's worth asking yourself, why is he not taking the lead? Initiation speaks volumes. In any relationship, especially in the beginning, actions speak louder than words. Who starts the conversation is more than just a detail, it often reflects who is investing more emotional energy. When you're the one constantly texting first, you're signaling interest, yes, but you're also doing all the emotional labor. Over time, this can lead to emotional imbalance. You begin to feel like you're chasing him. And let's be clear, no one likes to feel like they're chasing someone who's barely walking toward them. Men, just like women, enjoy the thrill of pursuit. They want to feel like they're actively choosing you, not simply responding to you out of politeness or habit. If you're always the one to say hey first, you're taking away that opportunity for him to show genuine interest and effort. The shift in dynamics. Imagine this: every morning, you send the first message. You ask about his day, you check in, you carry the weight of keeping the dialogue alive. Maybe in the beginning, he seemed enthusiastic. He replied quickly. But gradually, his responses became slower, shorter, or more distracted. You keep initiating, hoping things will go back to the way they were. But they don't. What's happening here is a shift in dynamics. Whether he realizes it or not, he may start seeing you as the person who's more into it. And unfortunately, human nature tends to undervalue what comes too easily. The person who initiates less can start to feel like the prize, simply because they seem less available. This doesn't mean you should play games or manipulate. It simply means you need to give him the chance to step forward. A relationship where only one person is initiating becomes one-sided, and that energy is rarely sustainable long-term. Why we fall into this pattern? There are many reasons women fall into the habit of always initiating. You fear that if you don't text first, he won't text at all. You want to feel close and connected. You think taking initiative shows confidence. You're simply excited and want to share your thoughts. None of these reasons are wrong. They come from a place of honesty. But the risk is that you start equating his silence with your responsibility. That is not love, that is emotional overfunctioning. You are not responsible for both sides of the connection. How to break the pattern gracefully. If you've realized you're always the initiator, it doesn't mean you've messed up. It just means it's time to recalibrate. Here's how to do that with grace and self-respect. Pause before reaching out. Ask yourself, has he initiated recently? Has he shown curiosity about my life, my feelings, my world? Let silence be a space, not a punishment. You don't need to text first every time to prove you care. Sometimes, stepping back allows someone to step forward. Observe, don't chase. If you stop initiating and he doesn't reach out at all, that tells you something important. Don't ignore it. Let it guide your choices moving forward. Keep your heart open, but your standards higher. Wanting connection is beautiful. But you deserve someone who's just as eager to connect with you. Create a life so fulfilling that you're not waiting on a text. When your days are rich with meaning, purpose, and joy, you become magnetic. Not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because you're whole, with or without their attention. The power of being chosen. Everyone wants to feel chosen. When you always initiate, you rob yourself of the joy of being chosen without asking. That moment when he texts first simply because he's thinking of you. That little ping that says, I miss you. Those small but powerful gestures that show he's invested, not just available. You are not needy for wanting those things. You are human. You are worthy of someone who wants to talk to you, not just someone who replies when you reach out. Final thoughts. Relationships are not about power, they're about partnership. But in order for a true partnership to exist, both people must show up willingly. Consistently. With interest, effort, and intention. So the next time you're tempted to start another conversation, take a breath. Ask yourself, has he met me halfway? If not, give him the space to do so. And remember, the right person will not need to be reminded to care. They'll show up because they want to, not because you always do the reaching. If you are still watching the video, do not hesitate to comment continue. Leave your thoughts and questions below in the comment section. I look forward to hearing your opinions. And do not forget to like and subscribe to the channel so that Sophia has more motivation to create more good and meaningful videos. Let's continue together. Mistake number 3. Responding too quickly or too slowly. Texting, when done right, can build connection, anticipation, and emotional intimacy. But one of the most underrated aspects of texting is timing. It's not just what you say, it's when you say it. And that's where many women unintentionally send the wrong signals. If you always respond instantly, you might come across as too available or even eager. On the other hand, if you wait too long to reply, especially as a tactic, you risk seeming uninterested, distant, or even dismissive. In both cases, the balance is lost. And in dating, balance is everything. Let's take a closer look at why texting too fast or too slow can backfire, and how to find a rhythm that keeps the connection flowing naturally. What instant replies really communicate? When someone texts you and you reply within seconds every single time, it can send a few unintended messages. First, it may suggest that you're constantly on your phone, just waiting for a message from him. That might not be true, but perception matters. Responding too quickly can make you seem like you have too much time on your hands, or worse, that he has become the center of your world too early. Second, it can make the conversation feel less meaningful. Instant replies can sometimes lead to rushed, shallow back and forths rather than thoughtful exchanges. When there's no pause, there's no room for curiosity or anticipation to build. It's not about playing hard to get, it's about giving space for the connection to breathe. When slow replies turn into mixed signals. Now let's look at the other extreme, delayed replies. While a bit of space can create healthy tension, intentionally waiting hours or even days to reply, especially when you're clearly active online, can come across as cold or emotionally unavailable. It may leave him confused, wondering if you did something wrong, or questioning your interest. Some people use delayed replies as a form of control, trying to make the other person work harder for their attention. But this kind of game playing rarely leads to genuine connection. It creates insecurity, not chemistry. If you're genuinely busy and can't reply right away, that's totally understandable, and even healthy. But when your delays are intentional and strategic, it can feel disingenuous. And in the early stages of dating, authenticity is everything. The secret, natural timing. So what's the answer? The key lies in natural timing. Respond when it feels right, when you actually have the time and mental space to engage in the conversation with presence and interest. If you're at work, in a meeting, out with friends, or simply resting, don't feel pressured to reply immediately. But when you do have time and the energy to connect, respond. Not because you're trying to seem available, but because you want to engage. Natural timing keeps things real. It shows that you have a full, balanced life, but also that you value the connection enough to be present when you do engage. How to find the right balance? Here are a few guidelines to help you avoid the extremes and find a healthy texting rhythm. Don't overthink every response. If you're interested in continuing the conversation and you're free, reply. If you're busy or not in the right headspace, wait until you are. Let your replies reflect your real life, not a strategy. Avoid reacting emotionally to his timing. If he takes a few hours to reply, resist the urge to match his delay out of spite. Respond on your own rhythm, not in retaliation. Be mindful of patterns. If you find yourself always replying within seconds while he regularly takes hours, take a step back. Match his general energy. Not to play games, but to maintain balance and protect your own emotional investment. Focus on quality, not speed. A thoughtful message after an hour means more than a rushed message after 5 seconds. Prioritize meaningful engagement over instant gratification. Notice your intentions. Are you replying quickly because you're afraid of losing his attention? Are you delaying a response because you want to appear less interested? Both come from fear, not confidence. And confidence is far more attractive when timing reflects emotional availability. Ultimately, the way we text reflects more than just habits, it reveals our emotional availability. Someone who's grounded, self-respecting, and emotionally mature doesn't feel the need to prove their interest through instant replies, nor do they use silence as a weapon. Your response time should feel human, not robotic. Real people get busy. Real people sometimes forget. Real people also get excited and want to respond right away. And that's okay, too. But when everything feels forced, calculated, or extreme, the emotional tone of the conversation becomes off balance. Think of texting like dancing. There's a rhythm to it. Sometimes you lead, sometimes you follow. But if you're always rushing the steps, or dragging behind, it's hard to enjoy the dance. Final thoughts. The magic of a good connection is built in the in-between moments, the anticipation, the subtle pauses, the feeling of what will they say next. Texting too quickly can remove that magic. Texting too slowly can kill it altogether. Instead, lean into natural timing. Trust that you don't have to force a connection to make it real. Let your responses reflect the rhythm of your life, balanced, engaged, present. When you respond from that place, you create space for genuine chemistry to grow. And always remember, You don't need to rush or delay to be valued. The right person will feel your presence in the way you show up, not in how fast or slow you type. Mistake number 4. Oversharing emotions too easily. Emotional openness is a beautiful thing. It's the bridge that allows people to connect on a deeper level, to understand each other beyond surface conversations, and to create trust. But like anything powerful, it has to be offered with intention and timing. When it's rushed or given too freely, especially early in a romantic connection, it can overwhelm, confuse, or even push someone away. That's where many women unknowingly make a mistake. They overshare their emotions too early, hoping it will bring them closer. But more often than not, it does the opposite. Let's explore why emotional vulnerability is essential, but why timing and boundaries are everything. The difference between vulnerability and emotional flooding. Vulnerability is not about telling someone everything you feel, all at once. It's about choosing the right moment, with the right person, and sharing your truth in a way that invites closeness, not discomfort. When you share too much too soon, intense emotions, past traumas, deep insecurities, you may think you're being authentic. And in a way, you are. But if the emotional foundation isn't there yet, your openness can feel more like emotional flooding than connection. Emotional flooding is when someone is given more information, or more emotional weight, than they're prepared to handle. It can leave the other person feeling responsible, pressured, or emotionally burdened. And in the early stages of dating, when someone is still getting to know you, that can be too much, too fast. Why we fall into oversharing. Most of the time, oversharing isn't about manipulation, it comes from a real place. Maybe you've been hurt before and want to be clear about what you need. Maybe you're anxious and looking for reassurance. Or maybe you believe that emotional depth equals intimacy, and you want to show that you're not afraid of being real. But what ends up happening is this: you reveal a lot. You talk about your fears, your heartbreaks, your hopes for the future. You share how much you like him, how much you miss him, or how upset you feel when he doesn't text back quickly. And if the other person hasn't emotionally invested yet, they may feel overwhelmed, not because you're too emotional, but because the timing feels off. True emotional connection can't be rushed. It needs mutual readiness. The illusion of instant closeness. Oversharing often creates the illusion of intimacy. You feel like you're connecting deeply, but in reality, you're the only one opening up. You fast-tracked emotional disclosure, hoping he'll meet you there, but he might not be ready. And here's the hard truth: if someone hasn't earned access to your most vulnerable thoughts and feelings, they're less likely to value them. We live in a world that encourages radical honesty and open-hearted living, and while that can be empowering, it still requires discernment. Emotional safety is a two-way street. You deserve to be heard, but you also deserve to be held. If the other person isn't emotionally available, your honesty might fall flat. Healthy emotional boundaries are not walls. Having boundaries around your emotions doesn't mean shutting people out. It means protecting your energy, your story, and your heart until you're sure someone is capable of receiving them with care. It's okay to feel deeply. It's okay to care. But it's also okay to pace yourself. Share pieces of yourself slowly, as trust grows. Let the relationship evolve naturally. Emotional intimacy, when built gradually, becomes unshakable. And most importantly, let his emotional availability guide your pace. Is he opening up to you, too? Is he curious about your inner world? Does he respond with empathy, or does he go silent when things get deep? These cues matter. How to be emotionally real, without oversharing. Here are a few mindful ways to stay open without overwhelming the connection. Check your motivation before sharing. Are you expressing your feelings to connect, or to seek reassurance? If it's the latter, pause. That's a sign to return to yourself first. Let vulnerability unfold over time. Instead of unloading your entire emotional story, share small, meaningful pieces. Let him show you that he's a safe place for more. Notice how he handles small disclosures. Does he listen when you share something personal? Does he respond with care? Emotional safety is revealed in small moments. Keep some emotions private, at least in the beginning. You don't have to tell someone how much you like them after the second date. Let them show you, with actions, that they're worth your emotional investment. Balance openness with presence. Not every emotion needs to be spoken. Sometimes, just being with your feelings, without sharing them, helps you stay grounded and centered. Final thoughts. There is so much strength in being emotionally open. But that strength multiplies when paired with wisdom and timing. You don't need to overshare to be seen. You don't have to prove your emotional depth. The right person will get to know you, layer by layer, and will value your heart even more because you didn't give it all away in the first chapter. So the next time you feel the urge to spill your feelings too quickly, take a breath. Ask yourself, is this person ready to hold what I'm about to give them? Because you, your thoughts, your emotions, your heart, are worth being held. Not just heard. Mistake number 5. Using too many emojis or typing in an overly teen style. Texting is our modern form of communication. It's how we connect, flirt, get to know each other, and often, whether we realize it or not, form lasting impressions. And just like tone, body language, and eye contact in real-life conversations, the way you text speaks volumes. That's why one of the most overlooked mistakes women make when texting men is this: using too many emojis, abbreviations, or writing in an overly teen style. You might think it's cute, playful, or lighthearted, but to the man reading those messages, it can send a very different signal. Let's talk about why this seemingly harmless habit could be hurting your chances of creating a deeper connection, and what to do instead. First impressions are emotional, even in texts. Before someone really knows you, they read into every message. The words you choose, the way you write them, and the tone you set. It all contributes to the emotional image they create of who you are. And if your texts are flooded with emojis, over-the-top expressions, or childish spelling, they might not see the confident, grounded woman behind the screen. Instead, they might see someone who hasn't fully grown into her emotional maturity, someone who relies on cuteness to communicate instead of clarity, intention, and self-respect. Even if you're highly intelligent, well-spoken, and emotionally mature in person, your texting style can misrepresent you. And the truth is, most emotionally mature men are drawn to substance over style, especially if that style feels more high school than high value. What happens when your texts feel too cute? Let's paint a picture. You meet someone great. There's attraction, some chemistry, maybe even a spark. But then you start texting like this: "Hi 3i, what you doin', hee hee, OMG you are so funny, LOL, yeah, I miss you." Maybe you throw in 10 emojis. Maybe you turn every sentence into a sing-song message that feels like it came straight out of a teenage group chat. You're not trying to be immature, you're just being expressive. But unfortunately, it can read as emotionally underdeveloped or even attention-seeking. The result? He might start pulling back. Not because he doesn't like you, but because something about the dynamic suddenly feels off. It doesn't match the level of connection he was hoping to build. It feels light, maybe too light, to go deeper. Texting style reflects emotional energy. Let's be clear, there's nothing wrong with being playful. In fact, a touch of flirtatious fun is often what keeps the spark alive. But when the playfulness becomes your primary tone, it starts to look like emotional avoidance. Emotionally mature communication is marked by balance, confidence, warmth, lightness, and depth. If your texting style is all fluff with no grounding, it can make the connection feel unstable. As if you're hiding behind humor, emojis, or exaggeration instead of just showing up as yourself. Men who are emotionally available and looking for something real want to connect with your essence, not your emoji game. Why we lean on cute texting. There's often a deeper reason behind the habit. Some women overuse emojis and cute language because they feel nervous about being vulnerable. They want to appear easygoing and non-threatening. They don't want to seem too serious or too intense. They associate cuteness with femininity or likability. But confidence, real, magnetic confidence, doesn't need to be softened by sparkles and squeals. It doesn't apologize for being clear, thoughtful, or sincere. It stands on its own. When you're grounded in who you are, your presence carries through your words. You don't need glitter to make your messages shine. How to refine your texting tone without losing your personality. If you want your messages to reflect who you truly are, mature, vibrant, emotionally intelligent, here's how to find that balance. Cut back on unnecessary fluff. You don't need to stretch every word or add excessive exclamation marks to show interest. A simple, well-phrased sentence is often more impactful than a dramatic one. Limit emojis. 1 or 2 is fine if it feels natural. But if every message looks like a parade of smiley faces, hearts, or inside jokes, it's time to scale back. Use punctuation and tone intentionally. Instead of writing, "So what you doin' RN LOL, try, "What are you up to tonight?" It's still casual, but clear and adult. Inject depth. Ask questions that reveal more. Share thoughts that go beyond the surface. Keep the playfulness, but add emotional substance too. Match his energy, not just his words. If he's texting in a mature, grounded tone, reflect that energy. It shows you're on the same emotional wavelength. Final thoughts. Texting is more than a way to kill time. It's how modern relationships begin, build, and sometimes break. The way you write can either elevate the connection or dilute it. You don't have to stop being lighthearted, fun, or flirty. But when you combine your natural charm with emotional clarity and a touch of refinement, you become magnetic. You stop looking like just another conversation and start feeling like someone worth knowing deeply. So the next time you catch yourself adding another round of stretched out words or a string of emojis, pause. Ask yourself, is this how I want to be seen? Because you are not a teenage girl trying to be noticed. You are a woman, radiant, smart, and fully capable of creating real connection with your words alone. Mistake number 6. Always being the one to end the conversation. In any relationship, especially in the early stages, communication is like a dance. There's rhythm, there's flow, and there's a shared energy that builds trust, connection, and desire. But when one person is always the one leading or closing the interaction, it can start to feel unbalanced. And that brings us to one of the most subtle but significant texting mistakes women often make, always being the one to end the conversation. It may seem polite. It may seem mature. It may even feel like you're showing you have boundaries. But when you're consistently the one who wraps up the exchange, with a good night, talk to you later, or a final I'll let you go, it begins to shift the dynamic in ways you might not realize. Let's break down what this pattern can communicate, why it can disrupt emotional flow, and how to handle conversations with more ease and balance. The pattern you don't notice you're creating. You might not even realize you're doing it. Maybe you've been taught to be respectful of his time. Or you don't want to come across as clingy. Or perhaps you've picked up on dating advice that says, don't overstay your welcome. So, after a good exchange, you take control of the wrap-up. You're the one saying, all right, I'll let you get back to your day, or I should get going, but this was fun. It feels kind. It feels mature. It might even feel empowering. But when it becomes a habit, when you always take responsibility for ending the moment, it quietly places you in the role of managing the emotional temperature of the relationship. And over time, that can become draining, confusing, or subtly one-sided. what it can signal to him. From his perspective, always having you be the one to end the conversation can signal a few different things. You're not fully invested. Even if that's not true, ending the chat first may make it seem like you're in control because you're less emotionally involved. You're afraid of being vulnerable. Wrapping things up quickly can feel like you're keeping things emotionally safe, not letting the moment linger. You're the one steering the interaction. That may not be a bad thing, but emotionally available men are drawn to mutual flow, not management. And most importantly, it removes the opportunity for him to take the lead, to say, "I've got to run, but let's talk later," or "I'll message you tomorrow." By always being the one to bow out, you take that initiative away from him. Men often feel more connected and confident when they get to show up and engage on their own terms. Always ending the conversation might be unintentionally signaling that you're not leaving room for that. Why this tendency often comes from a good place. For many women, this habit is rooted in thoughtfulness or self-protection. You don't want to seem too available. You want to demonstrate that you have a life. Or you want to make it clear that you're not trying to monopolize his time. Those are all healthy intentions, but the execution matters. There's a big difference between having boundaries and constantly removing yourself from emotional connection. Between showing confidence and cutting off the opportunity for intimacy. When you're always the one to end the conversation, you might be protecting yourself from lingering too long, but you're also preventing the relationship from deepening organically. How to shift this pattern gracefully. So how do you break this habit without swinging to the other extreme? Here are some intentional ways to let conversations evolve without overthinking your role. Let it flow naturally. Instead of feeling the need to wrap up every chat, just allow the conversation to pause or fade. You don't have to tie everything with a bow. Natural silences are okay. And often, they're where connection grows. Let him end it sometimes. Give him the space to close things out. If he needs to go, let him say so. If he wants to keep talking, let him show that. You don't need to manage his time. Stay a little longer. If things are going well, don't rush to exit. Allow emotional presence to deepen. Give yourself permission to linger in the moment. That's often where real chemistry lives. Trust your presence, not your timing. You don't have to leave first to maintain mystery or power. Real confidence is found in comfort, not control. Notice your reasons. Are you ending the chat because you genuinely need to go, or because you're afraid to let the conversation get closer? Awareness is everything. What balanced conversation looks like. A healthy texting rhythm doesn't need to be perfectly split. Sometimes you'll talk more, sometimes he will. Sometimes you'll say goodnight first, sometimes he will. The point isn't to keep score. It's to stay present. To let things unfold without trying to engineer every exchange. True connection builds when there's mutual curiosity, emotional pacing, and a shared willingness to stay in the moment. When you stop trying to manage the dynamic and start letting it unfold, you invite him to meet you there, not just through his replies, but through his energy, his effort, and his presence. Final thoughts. Being the one to always end the conversation might feel like you're staying in control, protecting your boundaries, or being respectful. But over time, it can create a subtle imbalance, one where emotional leadership always rests on your shoulders. You deserve more than a connection you have to maintain through effort. You deserve one that breathes on its own, where he leans in, stays curious, and doesn't need to be prompted to continue the conversation. So try this, next time, don't end it. Let it linger. Let the silence stretch. Let him make the next move. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing. Mistake number 7. Not knowing how to create mystery. In the world of dating and attraction, we often hear that mystery is magnetic. That there's something undeniably alluring about a woman who doesn't reveal everything at once, someone who leaves just enough unsaid to spark a man's curiosity and desire to know more. And yet, many women overlook this powerful element. In the pursuit of transparency, connection, or simply being liked, they reveal too much too soon. They make themselves completely available, emotionally, mentally, and sometimes even physically, without realizing they've given away one of the most attractive qualities a woman can possess, the power of mystery. Let's unpack what that really means, and how not knowing how to create mystery can slowly drain the attraction out of even the most promising connection. Mystery isn't about games, it's about depth. First, let's be clear, creating mystery doesn't mean being manipulative, cold, or unavailable. It's not about pretending to be someone you're not. And it's certainly not about withholding affection to gain power. Real mystery is about presence, pacing, and self-containment. It's about being fully yourself, while still keeping parts of your life, your story, and your emotional world sacred. It's about revealing just enough to intrigue, but not so much that there's nothing left to explore. Mystery invites a man to lean in, to wonder, to pursue. It tells him, there's more to me than what you've seen, and if you want to experience it, you'll have to earn it. That energy isn't just attractive, it's irresistible. What happens when there's no mystery? When a woman gives everything up front, when she texts constantly, shares every detail of her day, explains her feelings without being asked, or makes herself endlessly available, she removes the natural space that allows attraction to grow. Here's what often happens: he stops wondering about you. There's nothing left for him to be curious about. Curiosity drives pursuit, and without it, the desire to keep engaging fades. He doesn't feel the need to work for your attention. When a man gets full emotional access too quickly, he doesn't value it as deeply. Not because he's shallow, but because effort is what makes something meaningful. You start leading the relationship. And while many women are great at taking initiative, relationships thrive when there's balance, when both people are actively reaching toward each other. Mystery creates a natural pull, a silent invitation that says, if you want to see more of me, show me you're willing to step up. Why some women resist being mysterious? A lot of women resist creating mystery because it feels uncomfortable. They worry they'll seem distant or disinterested. Or they've been told that being real means sharing everything as soon as they feel it. But the truth is, many women overexpose themselves not because they're too honest, but because they're afraid. Afraid of losing interest. So they overshare to keep the connection alive. Afraid of being misunderstood. So they explain every emotion in detail. Afraid of being seen as hard to read. So they rush to prove they're open, kind, and loving. These are tender fears, and they make sense. But the solution isn't to abandon all mystery. The solution is to learn how to own your presence without giving it all away. How to create mystery without playing games. You don't need to pretend or act aloof to be mysterious. You just need to develop the kind of inner confidence that makes a man want to uncover more of who you are. Here's how: reveal yourself slowly. Let someone earn access to your inner world. Don't rush to tell your full story, your feelings, or your vision for the future. Let the relationship build in layers. Keep parts of your life just for you. You don't have to share every detail of your day, your past, or your emotions. It's okay, even attractive, to have a private world he's not fully in yet. Be a little unpredictable. Not in a chaotic way, but in a way that keeps him guessing. Don't always text at the same time. Don't always respond immediately. Let him wonder where you are, what you're up to, what's on your mind. Don't explain everything. Sometimes, you can let a moment or a feeling just be. You don't have to justify every silence, every mood, every decision. Quiet confidence creates powerful energy. Let him initiate. Instead of always reaching out, take a step back. Give him the space to come toward you, and pay attention to whether he does. Final thoughts. One of the most magnetic qualities of a high-value woman is that she doesn't rush to be known. She lets herself be discovered, slowly, intentionally, like a good novel or a beautiful song. There's more to her than what's immediately visible. And the man who wants to know her understands that he'll need to keep showing up, with curiosity, with effort, with presence. That's mystery. It's not about playing hard to get. It's about being worth getting to know. And knowing it. So, if you've been trying to prove your worth through full access, instant vulnerability, or constant communication, maybe it's time to pause. To breathe. To trust that what makes you magnetic isn't how quickly you open, it's how deeply you choose to reveal yourself, piece by piece. Because when a man senses there's more to you than meets the eye, that's when the chase begins. And the most beautiful connections are not the ones where everything is easy and available, they're the ones where the depth keeps unfolding. Let him lean in. Let him earn the next chapter. Conclusion. In today's world, texting is often the first bridge between two hearts. But as effortless as it may seem, it's easy to fall into habits that silently shift the energy of attraction. Whether it's texting too often, always initiating, responding too fast, oversharing emotions, overusing playful language, constantly ending conversations, or revealing too much too soon, each of these mistakes can subtly dull the spark before it has the chance to fully ignite. The truth is, men aren't turned off by connection, they're turned off by imbalance. Attraction isn't built on endless availability, constant updates, or emotional transparency right out of the gate. It's built on curiosity, rhythm, and emotional pacing. The space between messages matters just as much as the words themselves. So instead of trying to keep him interested, shift your focus toward being interesting. Allow yourself to slow down. To reveal yourself gradually. To trust that your presence, when grounded in self-respect and mystery, is more than enough to spark and sustain his desire. Remember, the most powerful texts are not the longest or the fastest, they're the ones that make him feel something and want to come closer. Let texting be an invitation, not an explanation. And let you be the mystery he can't wait to unfold. Thank you for watching the video until the end. I hope that today's sharing about love will bring you new perspectives and help you gain valuable lessons. If you find the video useful, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel and share with your loved ones. I am very grateful for your companionship and hope that each video will help you get closer to a happy and sustainable love. See you in the next videos. Wish you a wonderful and inspiring day.